what I prepped myself with was as if I was actually going, like I was pulling handles and I had some stuff setting up. So I'm going to show you the first one where I'm pulling handles and I'm arching them and I'm letting them set up for a little bit. Shoot. That is not good. Okay. And the other one I'm going to show pulling handles directly off the forms. So first thing you have to do is you have to get your clay prepped. So what I do is I wedge it, but as I'm wedging it, I'm going to start putting more pressure with my right side. So I'm going to start kind of tapering it into a cone shape. So I sort of have this shape going. And I can even kind of pat this into a nicer shape. Now, this amount of clay is arbitrary. It doesn't matter. You're just going to have to be comfortable holding this for a good amount of time. So don't use too much weight if you'll see as I start working. All right, so I have a full bucket of water here. This is going to look weird, like everyone says, this looks weird when you're doing this, okay? But this is how it's done. So I hold this, my arm is straight. This is what has to do with the weight of this, by how long I can hold my hand like this. So if I have a ton of clay, maybe my arm's going to start going like this. I'm going to start getting lazy. You shouldn't do that. All right. Lots of water. The first thing I'm going to do is I am hydrating the clay. Notice that I'm moving this around and I'm getting it all round first. So it's more of like hands gripping loose and it's a kind of a flicking down motion. All right, so first hydrating the clay. Now, for the first type of handle, where I'm going to pull them, and then I'm going to cut them, and then I'm going to arch them, I'm going to start working with a small section of clay, so about here. And I'm going to put more pressure with my thumb. So I'm going to start kind of flattening one side. I'm going to go right opposite that, and I'm going to flatten the other side. So I'm extending it. When I go like this, I'm smoothing those edges. And I'm straightening it. This will take practice. All right. I feel like that's a pretty good thickness. It's a pretty decent length. It's not sharp, it has rounded sides. I would advise getting maybe an apron or a towel because this is one of those things where I'm going to clean my hands a lot. I'm going to take a fettling knife. If you do not have a fettling knife, you need a fettling knife. I'll take this over to my board. I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to put my hand out, wet my knife, and cut. And then I will arch this handle. Now, I'll continue to pull handle after handle after handle. So, let's say I had 7 pieces to do. I'm probably going to pull 10 handles in varying sizes, not knowing really, especially in the beginning, what I like, what size I think will work best. If I don't like how that's going, I could just snip that off. So this is the first style that I think you should try. I'm going to lay this down, wet my knife, cut, arch this, and then keep pulling. So this is why you have a large amount of clay here. Now I have to section kind of a new area. Bring this down. So by how thick, so I could decide I want a really wide handle. If I wanted a very wide handle, I would not narrow this coil down anymore. I wouldn't narrow the circumference of it, because if I'm starting to flatten now, the wider the coil is that I'm starting, I'm calling this a coil because it's round. The wider that is, the wider this handle will end up being as I flatten it. Same goes if I pull it thinner and then I flatten it. If you guys remember from, if you read it, the multiple points that Vince had in do's and don'ts of handles, handle suggestions, etc., etc. One of them was emphatically not to have handles that are let me get it. Round. That's not a wise decision. Why isn't it a wise decision? Thinking about the shape of the handle, why wouldn't that work well?
Because it can slip around in your hand.
It'll definitely slip around in your hand. There's nothing to grip it to. So, flatter is better. You can see with some of these, I pulled them so they were flatter on the back, but a little bit more curved in the front. See how this has a little bit more of a roundedness here? So, how would I do that if I wanted to do that? What you will have to take time learning is how much pressure to put on this. Same as anything else. You can't ask me how much pressure you're putting on that right now. I don't know. I can't describe that. That's an unknown. So when I want to make one that's kind of rounded on one side, I'm going to only start flattening kind of from the back. And that gives me that rounded shape to the front, flattened side to the back. And again, I can lay this down, cut this, and arch this. All right. The second style of handle, I'm going to let those set up and I'm going to show you how to attach everything. The second style of handle, though, that I'm going to do is where I'm pulling directly off of the form. So for those, all I'm going to do is pull what are called lugs. L-U-G-S. So lugs are going to just be small pieces of clay that I will attach and then pull from the piece. So I will just pull a small amount and put it down. Notice that all my lugs are a little bit wider at one side and a little bit narrower on the other. They're definitely not fully pulled at all. They're just little lugs for me to start with. So what I advise everyone to do, especially is when you start learning how to do handles, pull as many as possible. You should be attaching these. You can attach them pretty quick. I would not wait until leather hard. Because then you can't alter the arch to them at all. But I would pull a good amount so you have different sizes to work with. All right. So let's say the first ones I'm going to do, I'm going to do the lugs first, just because I want these to set up a little bit. I know I had that here. Okay, that's frustrating. anyone see my rib tool? I know I put a rib tool here because I prepped all my stuff. Okay. No, it's a serrated rib tool.